going to replace our lower ball joint located behind your front wheel on the bottom side of your steering knuckle. Using our 19mm socket, I'm going to go ahead and remove our lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, go ahead and remove your wheel, set it aside. We want to go ahead and locate the nut for upper portion of our ball joint going into our knuckle. Now there's a cotter pin in here holding this, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our little pry tool. We want to go ahead and tap the legs out on the cotter pin here. And try and get to this on both sides. Looks like there's only one piece of it there. And then on the front side of it, we want to go ahead and try and loosen the head of this, because we want to try and pull that cotter pin out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pick and I'm going to try and get into the head of the cotter pin. You can see the cotter pin starting to work its way out a little bit here. You can see the leg of it moving a little bit. So we'll just try and work this cotter pin out if you can. If you want, you can grab a pair of cutters here. And we're going to try and work this out. Pinch and pull, kind of using leverage on the knuckle to get that cotter pin out. Now the cotter pin is a one-time use. Once you get this out, you're going to have to replace it. And there we go, we got that whole cotter pin out. And we have a 21mm wrench on our lower ball joint nut here. I'm going to go ahead and loosen that. And just keep on working at this nut here. If you want to, spray this little bit of rust penetrant on the nut and the threads here. Let that set for a couple minutes. Might make it a little bit easier coming off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this nut up to the point where you see the top of the nut just showing through the bottom of that castle nut through that little notch there. So we're not going to take that nut off completely. What we're going to do is, by doing this, we're going to utilize this nut as a capture nut, so when we pop the ball joint free from the knuckle, it won't separate too far, cause any other issues. We're just going to go ahead and throw our screw jack on the bottom side of our back knuckle here where the tie rod end is. What we want to do is we want to jack this up. We want to take some pressure off of the suspension here. So we're not going to take the vehicle off of our jack stands or our jack. We just want to apply some upward pressure on this. And that should be good. Let's go ahead and remove the nuts and the bolt for the lower part of our ball joint. What I'll do is I'm going to put a pry bar up between our nut here. And we're going to put a little bit of downward pressure on our ball joint while we strike the knuckle. Now that we have that loose, go ahead and spin that nut off the rest of the way. Now we can go ahead and lower our screw jack. And just want to go ahead and separate these components now. Take that ball joint, just kind of pivot that out. All right, so we're able to position our ball joint in a good position here, so we can go ahead and install this into our knuckle and into our control arm. I'm just going to flex these components around like so. Get that ball joint into the knuckle. Let's go ahead and install the two nuts here, get our bolt started, and then we'll get our nuts started on the threaded part. Now you want to pay attention to the orientation of the hole going through our ball joint section here, because that's where our cotter pin is going to have to get installed. You might have to pull that ball joint down in order to get that nut started. Let's go ahead and get everything tightened down. I'm going to go ahead and torque these down to 68 foot-pounds. Now the ball joint nut to the knuckle needs to be torqued down to 91 foot-pounds if you have the ability to do so. If not, you just want to make sure that this is on there pretty tight. Now at this point here, you want to make sure that once you have it torqued down, you want to make sure that the notch on the castle nut lines up with the hole in the ball joint. If it doesn't, you want to go ahead and tighten it up a little bit more. You do not want to loosen this nut to get that to line up. All right, so what we'll do is we'll put our cotter pin in. Let's see if we can tap that through. This point here, we're going to take the upper tab. We want to go ahead and curl that over. I'm going to snip it a little bit shorter so we can get it around our axle here, and then we're going to bend that over so it's on top of the ball joint stud. Make sure that it's pressed down low so it doesn't come in contact with that rotating axle. Use your snippers and cut off the excess on the other. You're all set. Go ahead and install your wheel. Let's get our lug nuts all started here. Once we get all of our lug nuts started, we're going to go ahead and snug them down. Let's get and torque down our wheels to 76 foot-pounds.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.